Hey English learners, welcome to this A1 English listening practice. Today, I want to tell you a special story. The story of my first time flying on a plane. I was nervous, really nervous. My hands were cold, my heart was beating fast, and I kept thinking, what if something goes wrong? But at the same time, I was excited. It was something new, something big. So today, I want to share this experience with you. This was many years ago. I was young, and I had never been in a plane before. My family planned a trip, and we needed to travel by plane. When my parents told me, I felt two things: fear and excitement. Fear because I didn't know what it would feel like, and excitement because, well, flying is amazing. On the day of the flight, we woke up very early. It was still dark outside. I remember feeling tired, but also excited. We put our bags in the car and drove to the airport. It was my first time seeing an airport, and it was huge. There were so many people, so many lights, and so many signs. Inside the airport, everything felt new. People were walking fast. Some people were laughing. Some people were stressed. There were workers checking passports, security officers, and families with kids. I held my bag very tight because I didn't want to lose it. Airports felt like another world. We went to a big line to check in. A woman at the desk took our passports and checked our tickets. She put tags on our bags and sent them on a moving belt. It was the first time I saw a bag disappear into a machine. I remember thinking, I hope I see my bag again. It was funny, but also a little scary. After check-in, we went to security. This part made me nervous. I didn't know what to do. People were taking off their shoes, belts, and jackets. I looked at my mom, and she said, "Don't worry, just follow me." So I did. We put our things in a tray and walked through a scanner. It made a small sound, and I was so scared it meant something was wrong. But everything was fine. When we finished security, we walked to our gate. I saw big windows, and outside there were so many airplanes. Big ones, small ones. Some were white, some blue, some red. I kept looking at them because they were beautiful and huge. I couldn't believe I was going to be inside one of them soon. We sat down at the gate and waited. People around us were talking quietly or checking their phones. I couldn't sit still. I kept looking at the plane through the window. I asked my dad, "Is that our plane?" He smiled and said, "Yes, that's the one." My stomach felt funny, like butterflies. Finally, a voice said, "Now we will start boarding." My heart jumped. This was it. People stood up and made a line. We walked slowly toward the door. A worker scanned our tickets and said, "Have a nice flight." Her voice was friendly, and it made me feel a little better. We walked through a long hallway called a jet bridge. It felt like a tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, I saw the door of the airplane. A flight attendant said, "Welcome," with a big smile. The airplane smelled different, like metal and clean air. I looked around with big eyes. Inside the plane, everything was small. Small windows, small seats, small tables. But it was very clean and bright. People were putting bags above the seats. I sat next to the window, of course. I wanted to see everything. I touched the window. It was cold. I could see the wing of the plane outside. It was huge. I kept thinking, how can this big thing fly? But I didn't have time to think more. The plane was getting ready. The flight attendants showed us how to use the seatbelt. They explained what to do in an emergency. They smiled the whole time, which helped me feel more relaxed. I put on my seatbelt. I held my mom's hand. I was ready. Well, kind of ready. The plane started moving, slowly, then faster and faster. My heart was beating fast again. I took a deep breath and looked out the window. The world outside was moving. We were really doing this. We were really going to fly. And then the plane lifted off the ground. My stomach felt strange, like I was on a roller coaster. I looked outside and saw the city getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It was beautiful. And that was the moment I fell in love with flying.
When the plane was in the air, everything felt different. My stomach was still a little strange, but I was okay. I looked around the plane. Some people were reading, some people were sleeping, some people were talking quietly. It felt peaceful. I looked out the window again. The sky was bright and blue. There were white clouds everywhere. Some clouds looked like cotton. Some clouds looked like big mountains. It was beautiful, and I couldn't stop looking. Then the captain spoke. He said, "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now flying at a high altitude. The weather is good today." His voice was calm. Hearing the captain made me feel safe. I thought, he knows what he's doing. After some minutes, a flight attendant came to us. She asked, "Would you like something to drink?" I was shy, so I looked at my mom. She said, "He'll have orange juice." So I got orange juice. It was cold and sweet, and it made me feel relaxed. The flight attendant also gave us a small snack. It was a little bag of crackers. They were simple, but I really enjoyed them. Maybe because it was my first time. Maybe because I was hungry. Or maybe because everything felt special. After eating, I started to feel tired. Flying can make you tired, even if you don't do anything. So I closed my eyes for a few minutes. The sound of the airplane was soft and steady. It sounded like a long It made me sleepy. I didn't sleep for long. Suddenly, the plane moved a little. It shook, just a little. This was my first time feeling turbulence. My eyes opened fast. I looked at my mom again. She smiled and said, "It's okay. This is normal." Her calm voice helped me relax again. I looked around the airplane. No one seemed scared. Some people didn't even notice. So I told myself, okay, I can be calm too. And after a few seconds, the plane stopped shaking. A little later, the flight attendants walked around again. They checked if everyone was okay. One of them saw me looking nervous and said, "Are you enjoying your first flight?" I smiled shyly and said, "Yes, I think so." She laughed softly and said, "You're doing great." After some time, I started to enjoy everything. I enjoyed the sound of the plane. I enjoyed the view from the window. I enjoyed the feeling of being far above the world. It felt like a dream, like I was in another world. I kept looking at the land below us. It looked small, very small. The cars looked like toys. The houses looked like little boxes. The rivers looked like lines drawn with a blue pen. Everything looked different from the sky. Then the captain spoke again. He said, "We are preparing to land. Please fasten your seatbelts." My heart beat a little faster again. Landing? I didn't know what landing felt like, but I trusted the pilot. The plane started going lower, slowly, very slowly. My ears started to feel funny, like there was pressure inside them. My mom told me to swallow, and it helped. I learned something new that day. The ground was getting closer now. I could see buildings. I could see roads. I could see people walking. It looked so strange after so long in the sky. The plane touched the ground. There was a big sound. Boom, shh. The wheels were rolling fast. The airplane was slowing down. I felt my body move forward a little because of the speed, but I also felt excited because I did it. I flew. When the plane stopped, people clapped. I didn't know why people clapped, but I clapped too. I felt proud. It was my first flight, and everything went well. We got our bags. We walked out of the airplane. The air outside felt different, fresh, warm, and new. I looked at the sky one more time and thought, I want to do this again. And that's how my first flying experience ended. I started the day nervous and scared, but I finished the day happy and excited. Flying was not scary. It was amazing. And from that moment, I knew I love airplanes.
After leaving the airplane, we walked through a long hallway again. It was similar to the one we used before the flight, but now I felt different. Before the flight, I felt nervous. Now I felt proud, happy, and excited. Flying changed something inside me. We entered the airport of the new city. It looked different from the first airport. The colors were different. The signs were different. The people were different. And everything felt new and interesting. We followed the signs to get our luggage. The place was busy. There were many people waiting around a big, moving belt. I watched the bags going around slowly. Some were big, some were small, some were colorful. Everyone was looking for their bag. After a few minutes, I saw our bags coming. I ran to them, but my dad said, "Wait, be careful." He took the bags, and I felt relieved because now I knew my bag didn't get lost. That was something I was afraid of at the beginning of the trip. We left the luggage area and walked outside. The weather was different from our city. It was warmer and brighter. I took a deep breath and looked around. Everything felt like a new adventure waiting to start. It felt amazing. We took a taxi to our hotel. During the ride, I kept looking outside the window. The buildings looked different. The streets were wider. The cars were bigger. I felt like I was in a movie. At the hotel, we checked in and went to our room. I sat on the bed and smiled. I was thinking about the flight again. The takeoff, the view from the window, the clouds, the landing. I couldn't believe I did all of that in one day. My mom asked me, "So, how was your first flight?" I said, "It was amazing. I want to fly again." She laughed and said, "I knew you'd like it." For the next few days, we visited many places in the new city. But every night, I thought about airplanes. Every time I heard a plane in the sky, I looked up and smiled. I understood now why people love traveling. Traveling teaches you so much. You learn about new places. You meet new people. You see new things. And sometimes you learn something about yourself. I learned that I am stronger than I thought. I learned that new experiences can be scary, but they can also be wonderful. At the end of our trip, we had to fly back home. This time, I wasn't nervous at all. When we arrived at the airport, I walked with confidence. When the plane took off, I didn't hold my mom's hand.
I just looked outside the window and enjoyed the view. During the flight back home, I felt calm. I drank juice again. I ate the little crackers again. And I watched the clouds one more time. But this time, I knew what to expect, and I loved it even more. When we arrived home, I felt a little sad that the flights were over. I wanted more. I wanted to fly again and again. That first experience opened my heart to travel. And from that day, I always looked forward to airports, airplanes, and new places. Flying became one of my favorite things in the world. It's not just about going somewhere. It's about the feeling of going up, up, up into the sky, the feeling of seeing the world from above, the feeling of freedom. So, if you've never flown before, or if you feel scared to fly, I want to tell you something. It's okay to be scared. Everyone feels that the first time. But flying is safe, beautiful, and exciting. And maybe, just maybe, your first flight will change you too. Thank you for listening to my story about my first time flying on a plane. I hope this story helped your English practice and maybe inspired you to try new experiences. Remember, new things can be scary, but they can also be amazing, just like my first flight.